Last week, we got information that I had been dreading for the past year and a half, ever since we first learned about this new Spice and Wolf anime project. And that's that this project is most likely going to be a reboot rather than a third season. Now, I did a video last year when we first learned about this, going over my thoughts and my concerns, because even though we really didn't have a lot of information at the time, people were already debating, would it be a season 3? Would it be a reboot? Would it be something else? And that really terrified me. If you've watched that video, you know that I really was not happy that I had to feel such negative concerns towards something that I had been waiting for so long. I watched Spice and Wolf basically 9 years ago to the day, and I have been waiting 9 years to get more Spice and Wolf. But when I meant more Spice and Wolf, I meant a third season to pick up where the show left off and give us new content, not a reboot. So while I don't want to reiterate too much of what I said in that video, I do feel it is necessary to go over certain parts of why I'm not particularly happy about the idea of a reboot. To start off, usually when anime get remakes, there's a reason for it. There's a very clear and obvious justification. Whether that be the show had a lot of filler, look at something like the original Hunter x Hunter, for example. Maybe the show went off in a dramatically different direction from the original source material, something like the original FMA. Or maybe the show just had a really different tone, and that tone just doesn't really fit with where the source material ultimately went or even had been during the content that had been adapted. Look at the original Fruits Basket, which yes, also had changes to plot points that would have made it incompatible with future seasons, but it also just has a very different tone compared to the new Fruits Basket. The first one is very lighthearted, much more of just an episodic slice of life comedy compared to the new one. In all of those cases, there's a very clear justification to readapt everything, either because it is just an absolute necessity that you literally cannot do more, or because remaking it lets you slim things down considerably, get rid of a massive chunk of filler, and streamline the story. In this case with Spice and Wolf, I do not see a satisfying reason for there to be a remake. Now, people have tried to come up with reasons because I'm not the only one who feels weird about this. Opinions over the past few days since this information was announced have been pretty divided. Some people are just happy to see more Spice and Wolf, and I wish I could be amongst those people. Some people are happy that it's a remake, and other people are like me who just do not see the point and are truthfully kind of frustrated with this. The two main justifications I've seen as far as why you would want to reboot it rather than make a third season are, number one, Volume 4. So the original Spice and Wolf did not adapt Volume 4 of the source material. It skipped over it to do Volume 5 because the original 2 seasons did Volumes 1, 2, 3, 5, and bits and pieces from other sources and other volumes. Skipping over Volume 4, while it is an important part of the story, as people will point out, is also something you could pretty easily rectify by just adapting it as the first thing of Season 3. And thankfully, people have pointed this out whenever someone brings up, well, you had to do Volume 4. It's like, yeah, of course, you can do Volume 4, but you can just do it now. You don't have to throw out everything we've already done to put Volume 4 exactly where it was in the source material. You can do it after. You can just do it now. So that's not a great reason, right? Thankfully, people are at least aware of that. So what is the other reason? Really just that it's been 14 years since we've had more Spice and Wolf. Season 2 came out in 2009. And yeah, okay, it's been 14 years, but is that really enough of a reason to justify a complete remake? Do we really just want to remake shows because it's been a while? I mean, who decides how long has been too long? I mean, look at something like The Devil is a Part-Timer. That got a new season after 9 years. Who's to say that that wasn't too long? I mean, nobody was clamoring for a remake. People just wanted a new season. Or even better, Full Metal Panic got a 4th season after 13 years. So is 13 years fine, but 14 is too long? Obviously, people are going to have different opinions on that, but at what point do you say this is enough time to do a sequel and this is enough time to do a remake? And besides that, I'm just not the kind of person who feels like doing a remake just because it's been a while is a good enough justification. It's the same reason why I'm not a big fan of whenever people try to bring up the idea of doing a remake of Yu Yu Hakusho. Yes, it's been 30 years, but what would you really be adding if you made a remake? Just changing the animation. Because that adaptation was pretty faithful, and even the little bits of filler that are there actually enhance the story compared to the source material. So what would you really be doing by making a remake? I don't feel like changing the animation is a good enough reason. Now, the other angle to this is, well, maybe you might draw in new viewers, but we don't really have the data on that sort of thing, so nobody, not me, not anyone else, can definitively say, oh yes, it will get more viewers than if they did season 3. Because yeah, you might draw in people who hadn't seen the show already, but you also might just end up encouraging people, if you did a 3rd season, to want to go back and watch more, so maybe that just kind of cancels out. Or maybe you have people who wanted a 3rd season and are mad about it being a reboot who maybe don't want to watch the reboot now. It's hard to say, and we don't have the data that potentially the people in Japan making the show would have, and we don't know what the data would be for the Japanese market rather than the Western market. We just don't know. And really, we will never know the exact reason why this seemingly is going to be a reboot unless the people working on the show do some sort of interview where they explain why. And that may happen, but until then, it's all just speculation. I just wish there was a really clear reason to do this, and maybe getting new viewers, maybe changing the animation style, theoretically improving it, although we'll get to that. Maybe putting Volume 4 in its exact place. Those just aren't good enough reasons. If the original Spice and Wolf had massively deviated from the source material, if it had a bunch of filler, if there was something that made it incompatible with doing new seasons, I would get it. This, I do not get. I do not see why we're not getting season 3. Now, the reason why it's frustrating is, well, it's twofold. One is just the personal, hey, I really like the original Spice and Wolf. It is one of my favorite anime. And it does kind of feel bad that that may become replaced by this new one. People may not want to go and watch it when they can just watch this, however many years down the road. 10 years from now, if someone wants to watch Spice and Wolf, which one are they going to watch? Now, granted, we don't know what's going to happen with this new one. That's a whole other thing that we need to discuss, but it does worry me that this show that I love so much may just be seen as unnecessary. It's sad. I mean, plenty of people don't even watch the original FMA anymore, despite that being a completely different story compared to Brotherhood. So are people really going to want to go and watch the original Spice and Wolf in the future? I don't know, and I don't like that uncertainty. And then the other concern is we have been waiting a very long time for more content from Spice and Wolf. And now we're going to have to wait even longer because they're going to have to get through everything the original Spice and Wolf already covered. And presumably they're not going to be really changing all that much. Like, yeah, we're going to have a different animation style. Yeah, dialogue might be shifted around a little bit. The angles might be different, the scenes might be a little different. Like, obviously there are going to be some aesthetic changes, but it's mostly just going to be alterations around the edges. Like, are we really going to get anything that substantially different from what we already saw beyond it being different animation? And because of that, you're just going to end up waiting even longer to get to new content, assuming we get to that new content at all, because as you may or may not have noticed, we do not have any sort of confirmation that this is going to be a full adaptation of Spice and Wolf. A lot of people have just kind of assumed it will be, I think because of Fruits Basket, where when that got announced, we were basically told immediately, oh, you're going to get a full adaptation. Problem is, we don't have that announcement here. And also, Spice and Wolf is just way longer than Fruits Basket, so trying to do a full adaptation of it is a much more arduous endeavor, especially for the studio that's involved with this, but we'll touch on that in a second. So now we're in this situation where we don't know if we're even going to get a full adaptation, and more immediately pressing, we don't know if we're going to even get to the point where we have new content. This might be like 1 or 2 seasons, and it might just be the exact same stuff we saw before. Maybe we'll get to see Volume 4 instead of Volume 5, but that uncertainty is really concerning. We don't know if and when we'll get to new content. Whereas at least if this was season 3, even if it didn't go all the way, even if it didn't cover everything, even if the animation quality was questionable, we would know we're getting new content for a fact. That would at least be reassuring. We do not know that here. We don't know how many seasons, we don't know how many episodes, we don't know if it's going to try to get through the older content quickly, which would kind of raise the question of why are you even rebooting it if that's the case. It's just really frustrating. Now, we don't know if and when we're even going to get to new content after waiting so long. And the reason why I'm even more concerned that we would actually get to see new content is because of the studio behind this. So we have a trailer, we have a release date of next year that we don't know exactly when. We know it's a TV anime, we know the new composer, it's going to be Kevin Penkin. We know some people from the original production are returning. We know the original Japanese voice actors are returning. What we don't know is, as I said before, how many episodes this is going to be, how many seasons, is it going to be a full adaptation? The really concerning thing from my perspective is that the studio doing this is Passion. Now, if you've never heard of them, I don't blame you. They're not the most well-known and certainly not the most well-regarded studio out there. If you just look through a lot of their content, they really haven't done anything that amazing or wowing. Most of the things they've done have not been well-received and have been largely forgotten. The two things I would say they are the most well-known for are the 4th season of High School DxD and the 2 most recent seasons of Higurashi, Go and Sotsu. Now, if you've seen those seasons, you know they are not very well regarded, not just in terms of their story quality, but in terms of their animation quality. The animation is not generally seen to have been all that consistent. Character designs are not seen to be all that great. And also things are just kind of shiny. I don't know, it's very off-putting personally. And looking at this trailer, I see a lot of those concerns. I see character designs that I'm not the hugest fan of, even if they aren't like that dramatically different. I see a lot of shininess and I just worry, based on Passion's track record, that the animation is not going to be consistent, especially if they do somehow do this massive adaptation. Because keep in mind, to do all of Spice and Wolf, all of the volumes, especially if they tried to do the sequel material, though I don't think they would, we're talking well over 100 episodes. Any sort of attempt to do all of Spice and Wolf would be really long. The benefit, of course, of just doing a 3rd season would be, hey, 26 of those episodes would already be done, but now they have to do so much content to do a full adaptation, and there's nothing in Passion's track record to suggest they'd be able to handle that. They'd be able to do this massive multi-season, potentially multi-year project, and would have the ability to maintain quality throughout. I really do not see them being able to pull that off. The only sequel that they've done is that 2nd season of the new Higurashi, which, again, not very well regarded. So, I don't know. And not that this is a great bar for anything, right? But if we look on Mao, just as an example, the highest rated thing that they have done is Wasteful Days of High School Girls. Now, that show I liked personally. I thought that was funny, but it's also just a high school comedy show. It's not something that needs wowing animation. And truthfully, the animation is serviceable. It's fine, but it's not amazing. If the best we can hope for is serviceable animation or animation that occasionally looks good, but at other times does not, or character designs that look way too shiny, I don't know. I just do not trust this studio to be handling this. And it really raises a lot of red flags, and it makes me even less confident that this will somehow be a full adaptation, especially when they didn't tell us that from the get-go. And because I'm concerned about the quality, I'm concerned about the consistency, I'm concerned about how long this is really going to go, again, it makes me even more frustrated that this is not season 3. Because even if this was season 3, I would still be worried about Passion being the studio. But at least, as I said before, we would be getting new content. As somebody who has stated before with The Devil's a Part-Timer, I don't mind that new season had worse animation than the first one, because at least it was new content, at least the animation looked all right. I would feel the same way about a 3rd season of Spice and Wolf. Even if the animation quality was inconsistent, even if the character designs were too shiny, at least it would be new content. But to do a reboot, and not even have the reboot necessarily look better than the original show from 14 years ago, again, you're taking away any sort of real reason to do that reboot at that point, other than maybe you'll get no viewers, but, then you kind of wonder, is this even going to be received as well as the original Spice and Wolf? I don't know. And it all just makes me worried that we might not even get to see new content, that this may come out, may not be the most well-regarded, we may basically get through the stuff we've already seen, and then it'll end, and then we'll be in a situation where we're even less likely to see new content from Spice and Wolf. I don't know. The one potential silver lining to all this is, as far as I can tell, there has not been an official announcement specifically that this is a reboot. People have determined it will be because of the trailer, of course. So just to get a little copium going, maybe, big maybe, very unlikely, they could just be doing some recap episodes of the content that's already been covered, and maybe we'll get 1 or 2 episodes like that, and then we'll jump directly to new content, meaning this would basically be season 3. I'd be fine with that, even though, again, my concerns regarding the studio would still be there, and that is technically possible, but the pessimist in me is saying, no, don't get your hopes up regarding that, and I do think that's correct. It's possible. I'd be happy if that's the case, but I don't think it will be. So it's annoying, and I'm sad. I wish I could be over the moon about this new Spice and Wolf after waiting so many years. Not even as long as some people, because some people have been waiting 14 years. I've only been waiting 9. I wish I could be super happy that we're getting this new Spice and Wolf, but I'm not. I'm really, really concerned, and Maybe as we get new information, I'll feel differently. And maybe looking back at this 5, 6, 7 years from now, we'll see this full adaptation from Passion and it'll look great and it'll be animated well and I'll be completely wrong. And honestly, that would be interesting. And part of me does hope that that's the case, but I'm really concerned about this. I am worried about this new Spice and Wolf. And while there is a part of me that wants to hope for the best, again, the pessimist in me is saying something's not going to go right here. Maybe I'll be wrong. I guess time will tell. And when we learn new information about this, maybe my concerns will go away, or maybe they'll be further justified. Who really knows? I guess come next year, we'll have our answers. Anyway, whatever your thoughts may be on this, please leave them in the comments down below. Let me know if you're excited for this, if you're frustrated about it, if you don't really care, you're just happy to see more Spice and Wolf. Again, I wish I could be like that, but whatever your thoughts are, leave them in the comments section down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and until next time, take care everyone. Look forward to the next video.